When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, run. User, 3x4. Posted, September 2nd, 1999.
I'm posting this from yet another nameless motel room in a town whose name I dare not speak. I admit my fingers are trembling a bit, sweat pouring down my spine, and you'd think I'd have gotten used to this, but I haven't. The cheap mattress beneath me reeks of old sweat, stained with filth from strangers long gone, and the neon sign outside buzzes angrily, flickering like a malevolent omen through the cracked blinds. Shadows twisting grotesquely across peeling wallpaper. Every keystroke feels like a gamble, an invitation for them to finally end this brutal nightmare, but I have to get my story out there. I have to let someone know what I have gone through, whether as evidence that I did, or maybe ego that I have succeeded. 2 years ago, my life was a monotonous hell, a meaningless carousel of dread. Wake, coffee, mindless calls at work, home to empty rooms haunted by loneliness. Isolation was suffocating, but predictable, safe even. It felt eternal, and I was resigned to it. That illusion shattered one bleak morning. I walked barefoot through dew-soaked grass to retrieve the mail, the cold biting into my soles. The mailbox creaked open, revealing a single envelope, crisp, pristine, unmarked. Carelessly, I tore it open, yawning into the silent morning. Inside, one word screamed from the paper in thick, panicked letters: run. Confusion barely took root before the world exploded. A deafening blast threw me violently backwards, and intense heat searing my skin. Flames roared in front of me, devouring my home in seconds, spitting embers and chunks of debris skyward like volcanic ash. Memories, worthless fragments of a hollow life, rained down, charred and twisted. My heart raced, my head pounded, and the world stopped in front of me as I froze to comprehend what was going on. The shock quickly gave way to panic as dirt sprayed violently into my face, a gunshot echoing from somewhere distant. The first didn't fully register, but the second, there was no doubt. Someone was shooting at me. fear, pure animalistic fear, overwhelmed me, took over. My body moved before my mind could catch up, sprinting through the choking smoke, shards of glass slicing my feet open, blood trailing as I scrambled into my battered Honda. Another bullet came whirring by, shattering my side view mirror as I slammed my foot onto the gas pedal, fleeing blindly from some unknown threat, some danger I didn't even know existed a mere 5 minutes before. So I drove. I drove nonstop, my heart racing for hours. I switched lanes on the interstate like a madman, pulled onto side roads, and double-backed before heading north, the entire time my mind poring over what had just happened and the note that started it all. Run. Nightfall brought me to a decrepit roadside motel, grimy, vile, forgotten. The air stank of rot. It was the kind of place that consumed lost souls. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I dug through my car, hoping to maybe find some dirty clothes I might have left in there or something. But when I opened the trunk, my relief set in. I had my gym bag. But wait, I thought, as I went to grab it, this bag? It's not mine. Where the hell had it come from? Dragging it inside, heart pounding, I ripped it open. In it, there were clothes tailored eerily to my exact size, survival essentials meticulously arranged, and wildly, there were stacks of $100 bills totaling precisely to $100,000. Underneath it all, another sickening envelope waited, mocking me. We've watched you decay from within. You had nothing left. Here's your chance. Find your will to survive or welcome your inevitable end. Nausea overtook me. My stomach wrenched violently. This did not seem real. They, whoever they was, had stalked my misery, relishing my pathetic existence, turning my suffering into their twisted entertainment. I was at the center of some fucked up game. I was being hunted. Days soon turned to weeks, weeks to months, relentless, exhausting months of desperation. I became a ghost, stealing cars, inventing identities, existing on scraps and paranoia. Mirrors showed a hollow creature, eyes sunken, skin stretched over jagged bones. Sleep became a cruel luxury, paranoia my closest friend. I drifted among the forgotten, a shadow in the gutters of society, invisible and hunted. My previous life, as boring as it may have been, was entirely forgotten. The things that had been destroyed in the fire were hardly even a memory. For the first few days, I meandered through back roads, and aside from a couple of car chases and an incident in which a man at a gas station told me someone was looking for an individual fitting my description, I didn't get much more information as to what the fuck was going on. But those gunshots were definitely real, so I kept moving. Then, one night, a few months in, I got more than I bargained for. Exhausted and careless, I took shelter in a motel beside an abandoned truck stop, convinced anonymity meant safety. Rain hammered mercilessly on the tin roof, a calming presence that helped me get a little bit of relaxation. But then, as soon as I started to nod off, a knock at the door startled me back to consciousness. Panic flooding my veins instantly, I surveyed my surroundings for an escape. Another knock came, urgent and desperate. My breath shallow, I crept to the peephole. A woman stood shivering violently, drenched to the bone, clothes clinging to a skeletal frame. Her eyes pleaded silently, broken and desperate. "Please," she begged weakly, barely audible above the storm. "My car died. Please help." Every instinct begged me to stay hidden, but residual humanity forced my hand. I opened the door slightly, and she collapsed inside, shaking violently, water pooling darkly around her. "I'll get a towel," I told her, turning slightly. But then, cold metal jammed against my skull, freezing me instantly. "Don't move," she hissed viciously, her desperation replaced by lethal coldness. My heart plummeted. She was no helpless victim. "Who are you?" I croaked, fear choking my words. "Doesn't matter," she spat. "They enjoy watching you squirm. Personally, I think you're pathetic." "Why me?" I pleaded desperately. "You're nobody," she sneered. "You're easy prey, like a little rat getting toyed with by a lion." To that, rage, blinding, primal rage exploded inside me. I twisted sharply, grabbing her wrist, feeling bone snap under my grip. She screamed, dropping the gun. We crashed through cheap furniture, violence consuming us both. Nails ripped my skin open, teeth tore into my flesh, pain and fury merging into blind madness. Blood splattered across walls and carpet, our brutal struggle painting the room with savagery. I felt my hands close around her throat, squeezing desperately, watching life drain from her terrified eyes, leaving a grotesque, lifeless doll beneath me. I collapsed backward, gasping, body trembling, drenched in blood. Panic seized me. I grabbed my stuff and fled into the storm. Rain washing away the blood on my hands, but not the guilt. When I got to the car, there was a note under the windshield wiper, drenched and soggy. Scrawled on it were the words, "Well done. You're better at this than we expected." Shocked, I just stood there in the pouring rain, head swiveling around, surveying the parking lot. Surely, if they were there with a gun, they could take me out right here in this lot. And honestly, I was ready. I was so fucking tired, but that merciful shot never came, and I've been running ever since. Tonight, writing this, shadows continue to twist maliciously around me. Over the last year, sounds have become amplified, every breath precious and deep. Emotionally, I am a shell, hollow, shattered, and utterly broken. They've stripped my humanity bare, left me a bleeding husk, desperately clinging to survival. Yet, within this hellish existence, they have given me a gift. That I cannot deny. I have found something fierce, a spark of bitter defiance. Survival is my only act of rebellion, my only weapon against their sick game, my promise to myself, the only promise I've ever kept. So, I keep running, and I will keep running until darkness inevitably claims me, or maybe, just maybe one day, I'll stop, face them, and confront the monsters who've reduced my life to an endless savage nightmare. When that day comes, God have mercy on us all, because I won't.
Subject: The Boy at the Reservoir. User: Pick8Furl. Posted June 13th, 1996.
Back in the early 80s was when I had my one and only encounter with what you might call ghosts. In fact, it's such a traditional ghost story that you might not believe me, but I swear this really happened. Everyone in Echo Park knows about the Pioneer Market. It's kind of like the heart of the neighborhood, along with Pioneer Chicken, Liquor, the Chevron, Finers, and all those other places. What a lot of people don't remember is that before the market was rebuilt in the mid-'80s, the parking lot used to be in the back, hidden from view, and boy, was it a place to get up to trouble. Understand that the Pioneer is run by good people who didn't condone any of the shenanigans back there, but there's only so much anyone can do. At night, my buddies and I would cruise Echo Park for kicks, sometimes looking for girls, but mostly just being out in the world and feeling that sense of freedom you only get when you're a kid. When we wanted to score a little weed or play some dice or just feel like tough guys, we knew exactly where to go. Down Sunset to the Pioneer. This one night, it had to be in the summer because it was hotter than a blast furnace, we hopped the fence at the Silver Lake Reservoir so we could cool off. We was me and my friend Johnny B. Not to be confused with his cousin Johnny F., who was grounded that night and couldn't sneak out. The water was exactly what we'd hoped it would be, cool and refreshing and surprisingly empty considering the heat. Johnny and I were in there maybe an hour before we decided to dry off and then head over toward the Pioneer to see if there was any action. In heat like that, you don't need much time to air dry, and before long, we were hopping the fence again. I don't remember what we were talking about on the way back to the car, but it must have been pretty dirty because when I saw a little boy, maybe 10 or 11, standing next to the fender, I felt a hot flush of embarrassment and shut up. Johnny kept talking a second or two longer till he saw what I was looking at, then did the same. When I was that kid's age, teenagers scared the hell out of me, so I was surprised he didn't react to our being there with fear. He just looked at us and said hi. I could tell Johnny was surprised too because there were a couple of beats of silence until he said hi back, giving a lame little wave. I frowned and asked the kid what he was doing out by himself so late, and the answer he gave sounded so old for his age. I'll never forget it. Sometimes I like to come back and visit the lake. It's nice, don't you think? I didn't quite know how to answer that, so I just agreed. There was an awkward silence, awkward for Johnny and I at least, as the kid didn't seem to care one whit. It didn't feel right to just move him along, so I asked if he visited the lake often, and again, his response has stuck in my head ever since. I don't know. I don't think so. Again, I couldn't think of any way to respond to that, but I suddenly felt a desperate need to get away from there. I told the kid we were headed to the Pioneer and asked if he wanted a lift home. He shrugged, his little shoulders rising and falling underneath his thin white shirt. Sure, I don't think I've done that before. Johnny gave me a look that said, "What are you doing? This kid is seriously weird," but I couldn't explain it then and can't now. something told me not to ignore this boy or leave him out there. We piled into my Ford, though now that I think back, I can't remember if I opened the door for him or if he did it himself. It's an odd thing to forget, but my brain has just smoothed over that part of the memory. Once we were in the enclosed space of the car, the unusual silence became even more noticeable. Before pulling out, I checked my rearview mirror and saw the kid sitting in the middle of the bench. In addition to the white shirt, he was wearing what looked like long shorts that went down past his knees. Back on the road, I felt a little more in my element, so I asked the kid what his name was. An entire block rolled past before he replied, long enough I didn't think he would. We were just about back on Sunset when I heard him pipe up. "Ben." "Okay, Ben," I said, making the turn. "Where are we taking you?" As I said that, some greaser asshole cut me off and I had to jerk the wheel to keep from crashing into him. I laid on the horn and Johnny shouted a few choice words out the window before the greaser peeled off, weaving in and out of traffic until he disappeared from view. I shook my head and bitched to Johnny about the guy for a minute before remembering Ben in the back seat. "Hey, sorry, Ben, I didn't..." As the words came out of my mouth, I glanced in the rear view to check on him, and he was just gone. I don't remember what I said next, but it was the kind of thing my mother wouldn't have approved of. That's for sure. I was a hair away from slamming on the brakes, which would have gone very badly for us, so I'm glad I didn't. Instead, I told Johnny to check the back seat in case he'd hit his head when we swerved or something. Big John literally climbed into the back seat and found absolutely nothing. There was no sign Ben had ever been there. We spent half an hour driving up and down that stretch of Sunset looking for the boy. It wasn't likely he'd gotten thrown from the car, but at that point we were grasping at straws. After all, whoever actually believes they've seen a ghost? We never found any trace of Ben, nor have I ever seen him again in the years since, even though I make a point of going up to the Silver Lake Reservoir at least once a year. He said that he likes to sometimes come back and visit, so I've always wondered if the lake is somehow significant to him. It's possible he drowned there, though I don't know how you'd verify something like that. Wherever he is, I hope Ben is coming back to the reservoir, not because he has to or because something tragic happened there, but because he likes to take a break from his next life to be reminded of this one.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.